Today's video is going to be on section 1.8 in your textbook, perimeter, area, and circumference. Just a reminder what perimeter and area are. You guys have seen this before. Perimeter is the distance around an object, or if for any object you're given, you can just add up the sum of all of the sides. We've got formulas though for a rectangle, we've got a formula for the perimeter of a square, and we've got a formula for the perimeter of a circle, which we actually call circumference. For a rectangle, you're going to do 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So the L and W are length and width. For a perimeter of a square, you're going to do perimeter equals 4 times S, where S is the length of each side. And for a circle, you can do one of 2 different formulas, either 2 times pi times the radius, or just pi times your diameter. Remember, radius is half of your diameter, and diameter is twice as big as your radius. To find your area, you're going to do the amount of space within an object. So some of the formulas we're going to use are rectangle is area equals length times width. A square is the same formula, but since the sides are the same, it ends up being side squared. For a triangle, you're going to do 1/2 base times height. Now, for this particular problem, you want to make sure that your base and your height are perpendicular. So even if your height's not part of the triangle, it needs to make that 90-degree angle, so always look for this when you're trying to figure out which one's your base and which one's your height. For a circle, we're going to do pi times your radius squared. Please, if you're giving your diameter, don't forget to divide by 2 to find your radius. Now, all of these are going to be on your formula sheet that we will provide you, so you don't have to memorize them, but you do need to write them down now so that you can work with them on the problems that we're about to do.
Alright, so what I would like you guys to do, the rest of these examples are word problems. So if the shape is not actually drawn out, I would advise that you draw out the shape depending on what they give you. So the first one says find the perimeter and area of a rectangle. So that's why we just have a rectangle drawn out here. And just take note, sometimes they ask you for more than one answer. So we're going to be finding the perimeter and the area of this shape. So it provides us with the length of 125. Okay, so I'm just going to label that here on my rectangle, and the width of 30 feet. And I would always pay attention to the units. You'll see us notating with feet, inches, centimeters, depending on what they give you. So for perimeter, perimeter equals 2L plus 2W. So we'll go ahead, if you want to pause it and work this out so that you can see if you can get the right answer. So when you plug it into the formula, 2 times 125 plus 2 times 30. Okay, you do your algebra work. You should get the perimeter of this rectangle to be 310 feet. So don't forget about the units. For area, the area formula is just length times width. So go ahead and plug in your dimensions, 125 times 30. So the area of this rectangle is going to be 3,750, and now with area, the unit is always squared, so it's going to be feet squared.
All right, again, go ahead and pause this after we go through what the directions are and what you're looking for. See if you can try it on your own before we go over the answers. You're going to find the area and circumference. So again, look at that word and. You're asked for 2 different things. Of the circle with the diameter 10. It's very important to note that we're given a diameter, so I'm going to write that down. Diameter is 10. It doesn't give us a unit, so we don't need to worry about units. Okay, now this next part, leave your answer in terms of pi. What that means is quite literally pi is going to be left in the answer, so we don't have to do any calculating, not using 3.14 or any other approximation of that. So go ahead and pause this, find your area and circumference using the 2 formulas. Area, we said, was pi times the radius squared. Well, if my diameter is 10, my radius is going to be half of my diameter. So we need to find that first. So radius is 5. So my area is going to be pi times 5 squared. Well, 5 squared is 25, and it's common to put the number first, so we're going to do 25 pi. Again, there were no units, so we're done with that part. And we do want to leave our answer in terms of pi, so I don't even need to pick up a calculator. This is my final answer. For circumference, you're using the formula either 2 times pi times my radius, or just pi times your diameter. Well, since we were given the diameter, I'm going to go ahead and use this formula right here. My diameter was 10, so this is 10 pi. Again, no units. We are done.
All right, so we're going to look at this triangle. Remember, Ms. Hurst said our area formula for a triangle is 1/2 base times height. And remember, you're always looking for that 90-degree angle because your base and your height are attached to that. So looking here, our 90-degree angle is actually on the outside. This dotted line represents the height. It's on the outside of that triangle, so we're going to use the 8.1 as our height. Our base, if you would notice here that I outlined, it would be connected to that 90-degree angle within the triangle. So this would be our base here. They give us the other numbers just to throw us off and see if we actually understand the formula. So go ahead and pause and plug those numbers into the formula. And you should have gotten 1/2 the base, 2.9, times the height, 8.1. So when you do all your math calculations, you should get the area of this triangle to be 11.745. And remember the units, centimeters, and since we're talking about area, it's centimeters squared. So that is the area of that triangle.
All right, so this is the one that does not have a picture. So again, like Ms. White said, we're going to draw a picture to represent this. I want to read through the entire question first to make sure we understand what's being asked of us. So here we go. A play yard is 25 feet by 18 feet, so it must be talking about a rectangle. A fence is to be built around the yard. So if I'm looking at this word around the yard, I'm not talking about the space in between it. We must be talking about the perimeter. Okay, so the question is how many feet of fencing will be needed? And then there's another question that says if fencing costs $4.30 per foot, what will be the cost of the fence? So there's two questions we have to answer. So go ahead and pause it and see what you can figure out. Draw yourself a picture. My picture ended up looking like this. It's a rectangle with the dimensions 25 feet by 18 feet. And again, we said we're talking about perimeter, so I'm going to do 2 times my length plus 2 times my width. So 2 times 25 plus 2 times 18. And I got that the perimeter of this is about 86, or is exactly 86 feet. Okay, so that's question number 1. Now question number 2 says, if fencing costs $4.30 per foot, what's going to be the cost of the fence? Well, this word per is going to indicate that we're going to multiply. So we're going to do $4.30 times 86 feet. And my final cost should be $369.80.
All right, just like that last word problem, I would like you guys to just read through it and first to see exactly what this question is asking. It says a can of paint will cover 65 square feet. How many cans of paint are needed to paint a wall 5 feet high and 98 feet long? Round your answers up to the nearest whole can of paint. So go ahead and pause that, draw out the dimensions. And you should have had a rectangle. We have 5 feet high and 98 feet long. So we have this wall here that we're going to paint. And because we're going to paint it, hopefully you have discovered or saw this word cover. So we're filling in this entire wall. So we're going to be using the area formula, which is length times width for a rectangle. So we need to figure out first what the total area is of this wall. So go ahead, plug in your values of 98 times 5, and the area of the wall is going to be 490 feet square. Okay, so that's our total area. But the question says how many cans of paint are needed? Well, it tells us that there are 65 square feet that you can cover with 1 can. So what we're going to do is take that number and divide by 65 to figure out exactly how many cans of paint we're going to use. Well, when you plug it into your calculator, you're going to be getting a number that's a decimal, about 7.5. Well, you can't buy 7.5 cans of paint. You have to round up because you need to at least have enough to cover that 0.5. So our final answer is 8 cans of paint, is what you're going to have to buy to cover that wall with paint.
All right, so again, we need to draw a picture. So picture this. Your parents ask you to mow the lawn. It's a square plot that is 19 feet on each side, and there's a square cement fountain in the center that's 2 feet on each side. Now, we're not going to mow any grass on that fountain because it's cement. The question is, what is the area of the lawn that you're actually going to mow? So go ahead and pause it, draw yourself a picture, see if you can figure out what the answer is going to be and how to get there. All right, here's my picture. I've got my square lawn, 19 feet by 19 feet. I'll make this look more like a 1. And there's a cement square in the middle, 2 feet by 2 feet. I'm only going to mow the grass in this area. I'm shading in green. So we're going to do the entire total area of the lawn. So 19 times 19. And we're going to subtract from that the 2 feet by 2 feet. So 2 by 2. Okay? Your final area for that you're going to mow is going to be 357 feet. And again, this is unit square. So that's the area you're going to mow.
All right. Last example of the day actually has 2 different shapes involved. And the question says there are circular discs with a diameter of 10 inches are stamped out. So each one of these have a diameter of 10. And there are 9 circles. And I'll just draw it on the one, just that row there. Okay? It wants to know how many square inches of waste sheet metal are left after the discs are stamped out. So really what you're trying to find is this black area, the shaded area, what that area is. So just like Ms. Hurst did on the prior one, even though they were both the same shape, the idea is the same, where you're going to find the total area of the shape, and you're going to subtract out what you want to remove. And what we want to remove are those circles there. So the first thing we have to do is find the area of this square. This side is going to be 30 inches also. So area of that will be side squared, which is 30 squared, which gives you 900 feet. So if we weren't removing any of those circles, inches squared, if we weren't removing any of those circles, our total area would be 900 inches squared. Well, we're going to be removing those circles. So what we have to look at now is the area of each one of those circles. So for a circle, the area formula is pi r squared. Well, they gave us the diameter. So remember, we're going to have to cut 10 in half to give us our radius, which is 5. So our area is 5 squared, which is 25 pi. Now looking back at the question, it's asking us to provide 2 different ways for the answer to be written. Give an exact answer. So whenever you see those words, the exact answer means in terms of pi. We're not going to subtract out or plug in 25 pi into our calculator. So exact answer, and I'm going to look back up how I wrote it here, is the total 900 minus what we had to remove, but they are not just one circle, there are 9. So we're going to have to do 9 times 25 pi. So when I do that, the exact answer would be 900 minus 225 pi. And that would be inches squared. So this is the exact answer if that's how they want you to provide it. They also want you to use an approximate answer. So what that means is you can actually type in, you're going to be using 3.14 for pi. So when we do that, the approximate, okay, you're going to do 900 minus 225 and then multiply that by 3.14. Oops, running out of room there. Okay, so when you plug that in, you should get the approximate answer to be about 193.5 inches squared. So those are our 2 different options and answer choices for this one problem. All right, so we only have one more section left of this chapter. So what we always ask you guys to do are go back to any of the sections that you might feel weak on or just want to rewatch to get you more prepared for your chapter 1 test.